Welcome. We got kicked off because of the music. Welcome. Welcome. All right, so we got a lesson from Instagram not to use any music and have fun because of copyright. But that's okay. Everyone played their favorite song in their head so we can have a smooth stream. Let me get Souffle back in here. Welcome, Victoria. How's everyone doing? We're actually just coming back on because Instagram pulled a flag city on us. Like, you play the most obscure music and you think that Instagram won't know. Nope. They know. They're waiting for an opportunity to kick you off. Welcome, everyone. Welcome. All right, so we are going to get started. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We are in for a very big treat from our special guest. Let me put in my comment again. Welcome. How's everyone doing? All right, so I'm so excited to have you guys here because we have an amazing guest coming in tonight. Many of you in the family room know her, and I'll get to her introduction briefly. But I just wanted to start off by wishing you all the positivity in the world. I know many people are going through a lot during these times, and that's why I created Testimony Tuesdays, to lift your spirits up, give you a chance to not listen to the news, all the bad news that's happening, and kind of focus on the good things that are happening in people's lives. So with that being said, I'm going to introduce our guest for this evening. So when Colleen Kennedy lost her management position in corporate America years ago due to the banking industry pivot, she had an idea the next day for a unique children's cookbook, which she began working on day and night. The book ultimately caught the eye of QVC, and from there, Colleen began her food blog, Souffle Bombay, where she shares easy recipes anyone can make to excite their family and friends, and where she often encourages parents to cook with their children at any age to not only teach them everything from math, science, project management, follow-through, and so much more, but to also enjoy the amazing conversations that happen while they cook. Plus, when a kid helps cook and take the lead, they will always at least try it. Colleen believes food is the one thing that connects us all. Food memories are such powerful memories. We all have to eat, so we may as well enjoy it. Colleen can be found on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Pinterest at Souffle Bombay, and on the web at www.soufflebombay.com. Colleen lives in Bucks County, Pennsylvania with her husband and 2 children. In her spare time, she enjoys hiking, doing the occasional barbecue competition, and spending time with family and friends. Many have called Colleen an altruistic soul. She's organized adopting 5 random families each year for the holidays, and for years and years, raising a lot of money to surprise them with everything they need, and a number of surprises from Santa. When news reached her of a bank teller whose young daughter was in DuPont Hospital fighting cancer, she fought those at the top of her bank until something was done to help, ultimately running a fundraiser and raising a large amount of money so that the mother could be both with her child during the difficult time, as well as pay for the girl's quinceañera. When news reached Colleen about a little 6-year-old girl in a tiny town in Twin Hills, Alaska, population 78 at the time, who said their teacher told them Santa doesn't come to Alaska, she instantly said, "Oh yes, he does," and enlisted bloggers, brands, and friends to give that town a Christmas like no other. So without further ado, please put in your clapping emojis for the one and only Souffle Bombay.
Hello.
Welcome. How are you doing?
I'm good. I don't know why when you join a live, the volume goes down for me. Let me just turn it up. There we go. There you
Okay.
go.
Can you
Hello.
hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Oh,
Thanks.
perfect. How are you doing?
I am well. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's such a pleasure to have you. So, what more can we say? You've done so much in your career, and you and I first met in the family room with Kathy Sledge
Yep.
and Kristen, and you've been sharing some amazing recipes with us and tips on how to eat healthy and also indulge a little bit at times. And so, one thing I always like to do with the guests is start off with a nice icebreaker. So, my question to you is if you had to choose just one recipe to prepare for a year and only that recipe, what would it be and why?
Oh my goodness. Well, that's a hard question. Oh, I've got like three answers. I guess if for a year and that's all I could eat,
Right.
I'm gonna go with crab cakes. Why not? I'll be a little indulgent. I
Ooh,
make really
nice.
good crab cakes, yeah.
Oh, that is awesome. I could definitely go for some crab cakes right now. And my last question for now for the icebreaker is what is your favorite all-time recipe to make?
It's not one specific recipe. I mean, I love making cocktails and all kinds of boozy concoctions, but cookies in general. So like I've always told my kids when I had to travel for work or even now with the blog, I left love behind in the cookie jar. So whether it's the first day of school or I'm not home or I want a cookie because I'm a self-proclaimed cookie monster, it's cookies.
Nice. I agree with you on that on the Cookie Monster because that's me too. So I just wanted to start off by asking you because we know that you actually wrote a children's cookbook. So can you tell us a little bit about the events that led up to you deciding to do that?
Sure. So, I was a corporate America darling. I worked my way up from a bank teller to upper management, like an AVP level. I oversaw a large territory of branches in multi-state. And when the banking industry went a little bit crazy, positions were cut in middle management all over the place, and I was one of those. So you go from being a girl that wins the trips and gets the bonuses to what? Right before Thanksgiving, you don't have a job. I think I was in literal, I'm not even joking. I think it was in medical shock for 24 hours, like literally shock. And then I just sat up and said, my most powerful memories and happened in a kitchen somewhere. Why isn't there a cookbook that for kids that has a place to slide pictures into it of your masterpieces, your disasters? And then in the back of the book, we're always looking for our grandmother or grandfather or mother or father's recipe, a place to handwrite their recipes in so they were never lost and you had them for generations. So I just had this idea and it kept me up at night. I worked like a crazy person. And then 2 months later, not even, the bank called and said, nobody knows what to do. You have to come back. And I'm like, come back. You gave me a giant severance package. So I said, put it in writing. I'll come back. It's as if this never happened. So I kind of put it on the back burner for a minute. It was like 80% done. And then over cocktails one night with some neighborhood women, we were talking about ideas and just ran with it and tripped over a guy from QVC through a friend. Next thing you know, I was on QVC with the book. So it was kind of crazy. And then that made me start the blog.
Wow. That is awesome. And how many recipes did you have in that first book?
Probably about 60 or 65 because it was like a binder book where you can stand it on your own or it's just, user friendly for the kids.
Oh, that is amazing.
Yeah, it was cool.
That's really inspirational because a lot of people would be down with that situation and stuck there, but you took it as a way to turn it around and inspire people out there to start cooking. So I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, you know what? I am that glasses half full kind of girl. Believe me, I'm chicken little sometimes too. Like, oh my gosh, I'm so worried I have to do this. But what at the end of the day, what does it get you? You know what I mean? So if the glass is half full, good things can happen. I mean, you're disappointed a lot too, I think, and always being like this. But why not? Just positivity.
Yeah, I think honestly, positivity is the best thing to hold on to in times like that. And in terms of getting the book published, what steps did you take to get that process rolling?
So the first book was self-published, actually, with a couple of neighborhood women. I over cocktails, I said, ladies, we've all, and I really didn't know them. I knew the one neighbor next door. I said, we all have had that $1 million idea or an idea that we could have run to market with. Why don't we start an incubator group? And within X amount of months or a year, we can go to market with a product or service. So we had landed on like organic soaps kind of before the trends. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not into that. So I was talking to my neighbor and I said, well, I kind of have this book just about finished. And then she was like, well, that's the idea. I'm like, no, that's not the idea. She's like, that is the idea. So I kind of did it with a couple other women. And we went overseas, had the plates made, everything. Like it was a lot of work because it was too expensive to even try to get it made in the US. Right. Unfortunately, like a book would have to be sold for $60 if it was made here that way.
Wow.
No one's going to buy that. So it was really cool. So I'm glad. I'm a great idea person, but I need to be held accountable. I can give you all the ideas in the world, but someone has to say, hey, when are you going to do it? Deliver it. Let's go. Where's your deadline? Yeah.
Yeah, I think I can be the same way at times too. And you need a team sometimes, like, to keep you on track, especially with such a huge endeavor like that one. But it ended up being very successful.
Yeah, and by accident, I started the blog. So I had always loved cooking, even running the territory I did at the bank. I was always like, oh, if whoever has the best sales, I'll cook you dinner or I'll cook you lunch. I would drive 2 hours up to the Poconos and a branch up there, or New Jersey or wherever I was going. But, and I, soup to nuts. It's just something that always made me happy. Ever since Santa Claus gave me my first book for Christmas. It was a Sesame Street cookbook. But the thing is, that's what hooked me. I can vividly remember making that first cake from the little Sesame Street cookbook. It was Big Bird, and it was a chocolate cake covered in chocolate icing, covered in popcorn. It was called a blizzard cake. It sounds ridiculous, but when I carried that cake out, I'm one of 5. I'm the oldest of 5 kids, to the 6 people and my Grammy at the table. I was puffed up. I was like 9. I was so excited that I did this, and they were smiling because of what they were about to get. I was shocked.
That also reminds me of the joy that kids get when they make something and people around them that they prepared it for enjoy it. It just gives it that satisfaction of having achieved something. And so I know that you talked about how kids tend to open up more in the kitchen with their parents, especially with things that they're going through emotionally. And especially during these times when kids are going through such dramatic changes, how do you feel that cooking can be used as a tool to help parents talk to their kids about these issues?
Well, it's non-threatening, right? It's almost like those great conversations that happen in a car. Like I remember people telling me once your kids drive, you're going to lose those amazing conversations. They can still happen in your kitchen at any age because you're having an action, you're chopping, you're stirring, you're this, you're that, and you're chatting while you do it, and great conversations happen. So, and non-threatening. You're not like, hey, what'd you do last night? Who were you with? It just kind of organically comes up.
Right. Yeah, and I think, like you said, it's such a natural process that you're doing, baking or cooking, and it kind of happens almost subconsciously where you open up to your parents.
I agree.
And I find the same thing.
And I've always said, even if they're, so it's funny, years ago when my daughter is now, she just turned 16. So when she was like in kindergarten or first grade, and like that first group of girls came over, how crazy they are at that age, I was like, are you kidding me? They're so loud. They're running around the house like maniacs. What am I going to do? So I'm like, who wants to make cookies? So I put a chair up to the counter, and they would take turns stepping on the chair, cracking an egg, stepping down, stepping on a chair, whisking, stepping down. They all had a step. And it controlled them for a while, and they all got to go home with cookies. So that was a good thing for me. But then every time they came over, guess what? We had to make something. I'm like, because kids are so ritualistic. But you know what? It's and funny enough, I would have them talk to the oven, and I would say, tell the studio audience what you're making. Because I did that with my daughter since she was young, and my son, just to help them with speaking and everything else and understanding what they were doing. So all the parents are like, well, when's the show on? I'm like, there's no show. That was before blogging. I'm like, there's no show. I'm just messing around. It's my oven.
Right. No, that's great. And it also gives you that platform too, because some kids do end up cooking in their house and going on to join shows like MasterChef Junior.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
So many competitions out there that they can get involved in as an extracurricular activity.
And all the parents worried about their kids not eating anything other than chicken nuggets or French fries. Guess what? Even if they're 3 and you had them help you chop the green beans and stir, they're going to try it. They may say they don't like it, but they're going to at least try it. So I can't give any better advice than that. Then you might think, oh, it's a pain in the neck. They're going to make a mess in the kitchen. No, you spell it out. You give them their duties. I mean, I'm not a chef or anything like that. I'm just a girl who likes to cook. And my kids had a good time in the kitchen, and now they can hold their own. Can they be on MasterChef? No. But you know what I mean? They can hold their own in the kitchen, which I love.
Yeah, and I think that's a great skill for everyone to have, because especially when you're living on your own and money can be tight, it helps to be able to make something on your own in the kitchen instead of ordering out every night or going to the restaurants. And now that people can't really go to as many restaurants as they would like to, as they could before, what better way than to try to make food in your house? And I think
you often make healthier choices that way too.
Yeah.
You know what you're putting in. So I knew this was at 7. At like 10 minutes of 6, I hadn't even jumped in the shower yet. I decided to make some broccoli cheese soup because my husband had emergency procedure on the weekends and he can't really swallow, so he can't really chew stuff right now because of what they did. Right. So I'm like, maybe broccoli cheese soup because today's like day 3, and literally that's how fast it was to make broccoli cheese soup from scratch. I called my daughter because my son was out. I was like, help! I was like, help me chop some carrots, help me this, help me that, and did the soup. She finished it off. I jumped in the shower, and now they're down there eating away. So I mean, you know what I mean? Like, I think that I think the world's gone a little crazy with the low carb and the keto. That's fine. If people want to do it, knock yourself out. But you can still make things from scratch. Know what you're putting in there, even if there's some heavy cream in something or oil in it or fats. I mean, you need those things to survive at the end of the day. Some fats are good. Yeah. And as long as you're not eating it all day long and you, like I always say, the yin and the yang, you balance it out, you're fine.
Yeah. And you're right. It's totally about balance. And people end up binging when they cut an extreme group out, macro group out. And then just one day they go crazy. You're like, okay, I'm going to have a whole tub of ice cream. So it's nice to have everything in moderation, I think.
Or you have normal everyday people that all of a sudden a couple of years ago are buying these strips to pee on to see if they're in basically diabetic shock, to see if they're losing weight. And I'm like, are you out of your mind? That's too much work for me. I'll just eat what I want to eat when I want to eat it and go for walks and, you know, be good when I have to be.
Yeah, I agree. And it kind of baffles me when people go on those extreme diets, because coming from a medical perspective, you see those labs change. You see that cholesterol content go sky high, but they're losing the weight, but their arteries are getting super clogged. So people really have to be careful with those crash diets.
Yeah, I agree.
And so I know that you do offer some catering services too.
No catering service from this girl. I do it out of love for people. Okay. If somebody needs my help, I'm there. Or like if they're stressed, I'll plan a menu for them, or I'll even jump in and help them out. But I've never done that. I'm too much of a control freak, I think, when it came to the food. Like, how would it look as good as when I just made it if I have to transport it? Like,
exactly.
Plus, I honestly feel like someone could tell me different. I'd love to know. I feel like everybody wants to pay as little for everything as they possibly can.
Right.
So I think that is way too much work. I just remember doing my mom's 50th birthday. My dad was going to hire a caterer, and I'm like, I can do that. They're like, you could? I'm like, I've got it. It was 3 days of my life that I'll never get back. It was so much work. I mean, I'm glad I did it. It was a great memory for them, but holy mackerel, that's a lot of work. I give it up to caterers for sure.
Yeah. You know, I think what it is we see a lot of your goodies in the family room, and all of us are secretly like waiting for our delivery. So, but I know
you just go to my website and you can do it yourself. I really don't put things that are very complicated on there. And everybody always wants to know. So for people in the room that want to know, the one question I get all the time is, how do bloggers make money? I don't understand. So let me just break it down for you, for anybody that is interested in pursuing that, because I've helped plenty of people who've reached out to me if they want to start a blog. I did not start a blog to make money. I did not know you could make money in blogging. And one day, after maybe I was just taking pictures on my stove with no lighting whatsoever and writing stories about my kids, Charbroil sent me a beautiful 4-burner grill. And I'm like, why would they send me a grill? Like, that's insane. Oh. So that's when I started to learn what could happen. So for years, I didn't have any ads on my site. I wanted to look clean and neat. But meanwhile, I'm busting my butt all the time, buying ingredients, perfecting it, taking pictures, rating everything. And I would always say, I'm just a girl who likes to cook. I don't have to spell correctly. I don't have to take good pictures. I don't have to do perfect grammar. I just want to put my recipes out there.
Yeah.
But what am I getting for it? Absolutely nothing. So a few years ago, I did put ads on my site. So basically, every time you visit an established blog, you're with an agency that places the ads for you, and you're basically paid for every visit. It could be a half a cent, a half a penny a visit, a penny a visit, all the way up to right before Christmas, maybe 3 pennies a visit. Oh, so wow. Times that by 50,000 visits a month, 500,000 visits a month, 1 million, and you do the math. It can add up for some of the big bloggers for sure. Yes. And then brands will reach out and say, hey, could you make a recipe with my butter? And then you get paid, and you clearly have to say it's a sponsored post. So there's multiple ways to go ahead and do it. But if anybody out there is interested in that, let me know. And I'm always happy to help people start a blog. And it doesn't have to be food. We're all good at something. So I found that the more niche down it is, like the people, there's this machine called a Cricut. These crafters, a Cricut, I don't even know what it is. They punch. Those bloggers make ridiculous amount of money because it's so specialized. Same with like maybe a knitter, like whatever your passion is, just go for it.
You know, that's really great advice, because especially now that everyone's indoors, anyone can write up what they're doing, whether it's music, healthcare, cooking, and there's tons of people out there who will be more than happy to read about that and read about other people's experiences. So that's really great advice.
For sure.
Another thing too, I know a lot of people monetize through Instagram and YouTube. Have you explored any of those avenues?
So as far as me getting paid through Instagram, sometimes I'll do social only gigs. So there's no blog posts involved, and they're just asking you to do a collaboration on your social channels. Matter of fact, I'm about to run a campaign for a really nice cutting board brand, and I hired a bunch of bloggers for that. So because of who I was in corporate America, when brands would come asking me questions, I'm like, well, do you need anybody else? And I was like, out of the goodness of my heart, honestly, because I made blogging friends and I wanted to help them out. And then I'm like, this is a lot of work. I got paid what they got paid. So I'm like, oh, I'll just charge a little extra for my work. So then that just kind of morphed into something else. So bloggers who are established a little bit anyway, a few years, have multiple streams of income. So whether they're writing ebooks, whether they have products, spices, whatever it happens to be, knives, whatever they were smart enough to come up with, it's pretty interesting. YouTube, I really don't want to do video. I mean, I have to do video. I just want someone to do it for me. Like I said, I'm just a girl who likes to cook, and I can't keep everything in my brain. I don't want to learn new things. My daughter, since she was 12, has been my editor for video, and she does it, not me. So when brands would come to me and say, we want to hire you for a 5-video deal, I'm like, do I tell them my 13-year-old's doing it, or do I tell them it's me? So yeah, she's crafty and creative, so she helps me out.
Yeah, that's another aspect that a lot of people tend to overlook when it comes to starting a YouTube, because you've got to edit the videos. You have to think about the different vantage points you're going to have for if you have multiple cameras. There's a lot that goes into it and can take away from the creative process sometimes. So getting a team like your daughter, who's been very helpful, but maybe in the future getting even a media or marketing team is a way that people kind of get over that hump, so to speak.
But it's expensive. I mean, so the biggest bloggers have, some of them have studios in their house, like in their basements, a whole kitchen set up, and they have teams. Some of them hire virtual assistants, but some have like 10 or 20 people working on it. But they're the ones like really, really big bloggers. But they don't, that's all they do. I mean, I'm not willing to give up my life to just do that. And that's fantastic. Same as people are amazing with their photography and all of the scene they set. They're telling a story with their images. That's amazing too. That's not my talent. I'm just a girl who likes to cook, and I'm taking a picture of the food. Like if you see some styling going on, that was a lot of effort on this girl's part, because I don't have that gift. I can't even pick out paint color. Are you kidding me? So
I think that you have a subconscious gift for it though, because I see it on your blog. It's very professionally laid out. The pictures are crisp. Everything is very appetizing to look at. So even though you may not think that, everyone in the comments is saying, are you kidding? You are a chef. You're
Oh,
top notch. We're all
thank
like
you.
drooling over the food that you bring in every week to the family room.
Well, you know what? I get such a kick out of it. And maybe once a week I go into the back end of my blog and I read the comments and I answer them, right? I just let them
Right.
pile up a little bit. And one dish, for example, key lime pie, if you read those comments, there are so many people saying it's at every birthday or a husband's favorite, or they make it all the time. Like, I love that I'm somebody that nobody really knows, but I'm involved in lives. I'm touching them somehow because, like, I know when I was like 40, I'm like, what am I going to, why am I here? What am I supposed to do? I'm here for something. What's the something? I still don't know if I know what it is, but it's kind of cool that I'm in people's lives in this way.
Yeah, I totally agree. And talking about that, recently you collaborated with the amazing Kathy Sledge to do a challenge called I Can't Wait, where we had different soup recipes that were going to help us detox and get ready for Gene season this fall. So can you tell a little bit about the inspiration behind that?
Well, I think it kind of happened by accident. So I had this tomato soup that I use every year to drop when I need to drop a little bit. Like I said, you can tell I'm not like a dieter. I guess I was lucky most of my life, but hello, once you have children, a couple of pounds down with each kid. So then you get happy, you don't pay attention, or at least I got happy, didn't pay attention to it. And then I'm like, wait a minute, I can feel a little something here. I don't like it. So years ago, I started to just detox with some homemade soups. And I sent Kathy the soup, and I also sent her something decadent that day. I forget what it was. Maybe, I don't know if it's the chocolate moonshine or the key lime pie. I sent her something else. And I was just saying to her that whole yin and yang. And Kathy is a marketing genius. Let me just tell you, she comes up with these phrases like that. So she was like, I can't wait challenge. I'm like, okay. So we just kind of ran with it, which was fun.
No, that was a nice twist on words. And I did try the tomato soup challenge, as well as I had to modify the pumpkin one because they didn't have pumpkins in my local grocery. So I made it with squash and sweet potato. Yeah.
Oh,
So
okay.
and guess what? After I made that, I went to the store the next week and there were pumpkins. I'm like, I'll just make it another time. But the soup is so light and delicious. It's so great.
With the tomato or the pumpkin? You made it with butternut squash, the pumpkin one?
Right. I did butternut squash and some sweet potato.
Oh, I love sweet potato soup. Love it.
Yeah. But the tomato, I think, was my favorite one because it was rich and the garlic gave it a nice kick.
And you can just eat, I drink it out of a mug sometimes, like when I'm in that zone. So, I mean, you can try these, deliveries that you get to detox or whatever. And that's great if you can afford it. But you can just do it yourself, really, with flavored waters and different soups and fruit cleanses. I'm obsessed right now these days with Pliable. I don't know if you have a Pliable. You're Philly, right?
Yes.
Okay, so there's different Pliables that are out of Belmar, I think, originally in the area, where it's those.
Oh yeah.
The acai or acai, however you say it, like the bowls. Oh my gosh, I'm obsessed. I had that for dinner last night. I had a fruit bowl for my dinner. So yeah, so that helps eat light as well. So even people are afraid of sugars, but if the sugar's coming from a natural source and you don't have a problem with sugar, go ahead.
Yeah. No, that fruit bowl idea is also great too. I remember I lived in Miami for 2 years and they're all about healthy lifestyles. So fruit bowls were a thing.
So I'll show you. I was trying to think of how to do this. So you were talking before about breakfast and stuff. Let me see how to do this. So you can see my little ring light there. That's just a pineapple cut in half.
Oh,
with yogurt in there.
Yes.
Granola, fruit. Something else super healthy you could do for a light meal or lunch, if you can see that. I throw an avocado. I let it just kiss the grill. I brush it with like garlic oil. And then basically tomatoes and mozzarella and balsamic like a caprese. Super light and easy. Going back to the avocado, for people who love avocados, if you have leftover pulled pork, which I love to make in the summer and winter, you just chuck it on top of your seasoned avocado, throw an egg on there if you want to. That's dinner. You know what I mean? Wow. You're getting uses out of it. Right now, because we're rolling in zucchini, stuff your zucchini even with breakfast sausage and some vegetables and dig in there. Nice. You can even do lentils if you're not into the meat. You don't have it doesn't have to be sausage.
Yes.
Another light breakfast, egg cups. There's no, gluten in
Those
there
are
whatsoever.
huge. Yeah.
Just use your muffin tin. And two more I put up. A lentil bolognese for people that aren't into meat. That's one of my daughter's favorite meals. But I also like the pork bolognese. That's what I go for. But the lentil's good too. And then if you want to be naughty, the best key lime pie. And I'm telling you guys, you cannot mess this pie up. It is easy and it's good. Trust me, everybody can make that pie.
I definitely want to try that because I'm hungry right now. I'm looking at all of that, and they look healthy too.
Somebody said avocado toast. Yes, 100 times to avocado toast. I will never be tired of that.
I love avocado toast. And I know we were talking about people being concerned with sodium, sugar, different ingredients in their food, especially now that a lot of families are going through food insecurity. What suggestions do you have for how people who are trying to save a few dollars can also eat healthy?
Well, one of the really cool, I'm not into any subscription boxes, but I really think it's a great idea that if you, what's it called? Ugly fruit, or I forget what it's called, but they send you boxfuls of, imperfect, something like that. All the imperfect potatoes and like you never know what you're getting. People save a lot of money and can make a lot of good things with that. But you can also go to your supermarket or farmer's market. They have sections of bruised tomatoes and everything else. It tastes the same in a soup. So you can get the stuff for half a price. If you have a farmer's market near you, like that pops up on a Saturday, if you go to those, so by me, the next town over, it's an Amish farmer's market. They say Pennsylvania Dutch because they're not allowed to profit off the name Amish or something. But a Pennsylvania Dutch market, if you go right before they close on their third day, on the half day on Saturday, everything is marked down. Like all the everything is literally half the price. And I see people, you can haggle with what meat is left. So, I mean, there are ways. And another great way, I've been trying to do this, but I'm lazy and I'm trying to get my friends to do it with me. There are those restaurant stores in every city now. Every city that anybody with a business, it doesn't matter if it's a wallpaper hanging business, you can get a restaurant card. Go in with 2 or 3 families and you get a bag of potatoes that's 20 pounds for like what you would pay for a 5-pound bag of potatoes in the store. So I buy a giant side of meat that might seem expensive at $100, let's just say. But if I get 12 ribeyes like this out of it that basically break down, because I cut it myself, that break down to, I don't know, $6 to $8 a ribeye, where are you going to find that? So go in with some other families, buy more bulk than a Costco for sure, and get into one of those restaurant depot places.
Wow. Honestly, Souffle, this is the first time that I'm hearing about this.
And they're free too. You don't pay anything for that. Yeah.
Wow. So you just go into a store and ask them for the restaurant card?
Well, you have to be a business owner of some sort. It doesn't have to be involved in food, but somebody in your circle is a business owner of something. And then you go and you get a card. And it's such an amazing savings.
Wow. That is really good to know. And I have always been a fan of farmers markets because, like you said, you can kind of barter down and see what prices they're willing to give you. And also you can buy in bulk from there too. So that's great. Yeah.
And I'm respectful with the farmers, but at the end of the day, what's going to happen to it unless they have a storefront? So as a blogger, I'm so blessed to have gone behind the scenes many times in the dairy industry, in the veal industry, in the beef industry. I've toured cheese factories in Wisconsin. Like, I see the story and the struggle and the full circle. Farmers get a bad rap, but when you know the full circle of what's going on, it's so impressive. And honestly, I don't know how one single steak doesn't cost $40 in the grocery store. Like, their spread of what they make for working every single day of the year is like nothing. It's incredible. If one tractor costs $600,000 and one silo $1 million, like, it's incredible how these families, what they go through to put the food, we all take that for granted. And I try to make sure my kids do not take that for granted. Like, the backbreaking work, without them, what would we do?
You know, you're so right. And actually, farmers played a pivotal role during this pandemic because I heard about a lot of farmers who had to take back their goods because some grocery stores had surplus. And so what they did is they donated it to the food shelters so people could go pick it up in bulk. And even some churches, too, were distributing boxes of fruit, vegetables, what have you. And that was a huge help to a lot of communities.
Amazing help. So like, I've done a lot of work in the dairy industry. For example, the larger dairy farms, they power their towns with the waste from the cows and their methane digesters. They provide the electricity for their towns. It's incredible, not just for themselves. How they recycle the water at every turn for what they do, amazing. They get fined if they have too much water in a pond, if it runs over, even if it's rain that caused it to happen. Like the ins and outs of what these industries do, it's just, it blows my mind. Like I God bless them, honestly. Yeah, so it's just really cool. Matter of fact, there's a couple of farms I've been to in New York of younger farmers that are getting together with other younger farmers. It's the only way they can do it, like 5 families or 3 families to run the farm they do. They'll go around, if they have a methane digester, to the grocery stores, to the senior centers, to the cafeterias, take all their waste, recycle it down, get power from it, and then recycle the glass, recycle the plastic, recycle like what wouldn't have been done. It's really, really cool. A lot of stories there.
Oh yeah, recycling is major, especially during these times when we have all these effects of global warming. It's nice to know that people can use that waste to regenerate energy, especially going forward.
And the press doesn't show you the good side of it. They show you the bad. They don't want to tell you all the leaps and bounds that are made. For example, veal. I remember being a teenager and looking in the back of one of the teeny bopper magazines, and I saw one picture which dictated the rest of my life that I would never put it in my mouth ever. That was 25 years ago. That it's not like that. It hasn't been like that. It's if not for the veal industry, what would happen to the male dairy cows? Where would they go? They wouldn't be alive at all. Like they would just be like, you know what I mean, at birth. Yeah. So it's interesting what you can find out when you either dig on your own a little bit or are lucky enough to be exposed to it and see the story.
Yeah, I'm so happy that we have you to tell us that inside story, because I didn't know the full extent to which farmers were working so hard and not getting paid what they're supposed to, because they do so much for the community. So much.
They really do. Yeah, so much. Yep. And what we were talking about earlier, multiple streams of income. Mm-hmm. A lot of them, if they don't make something with the byproducts that's not used over here, maybe making soaps with this part of it or this with that part of it, they can't survive. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I know farming is really big here in Pennsylvania too. We have the Amish markets. And a lot of them are actually the ones who contribute to the markets that we have every weekend at Rittenhouse Square, for example.
Yeah.
And it's just great quality too.
Yeah, Bucks County, where I am, there's so many farms. It's just really nice. Like even down the road from me, there's a small dairy farm that is packed at all times because they buy in bulk. So their prices for produce, people come from all over to buy. Like if I buy, let's just say Taylor pork roll or Kerrygold cheese, it's $2 less there than any supermarket. And I'm always like, how do they do this? How is everything so cheap here? But it's just because it's a tiny little place. You can buy the fresh ice cream that the cows made, the ladies over there, and but you're getting great prices. So yeah, once you hunt around or put out on Facebook, you can probably just find out where everybody's getting all the deals.
Oh, great. I hope everyone in the comments is listening to this great information, because it's a way to save money and also eat some good quality, healthy food.
Yeah.
And going off of that, I know that you've also given back to the community in your own way. And you have an annual tradition where you give back to 5 families. So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, that started probably a couple years before 9/11, when I came into my own. I had always done something my whole life where you picked a name off a tree in a supermarket or whatever. But I looked around me in corporate America and I was like, guys, we could do something really good if we all got together. Why do we need to do a Pollyanna? Like, if I can go buy my own umbrella, I don't need it from you. I know it's fun and all, but why don't we put that money elsewhere? So that's how it started out, just with one of the branches I ran. But as I climbed the ladder in the bank, I'm like, I would just walk into other executives' room and go in their offices and go, you didn't give me anything yet. They're like, what do you need? I said, $100. Like, if a teller wants to buy this kid a bicycle from this family, you can give me $100 or more. Like, so I was not bullying them, but just saying, hey, right is right, wrong is wrong. So next thing you know, just by accident, I'd raised $17,000 or $20,000, and I made sure it was Santa Claus that was giving this gift. And it was funny how people are. They're like, this kid on his wish is asking for a game for a video system, a gaming system. So they're not poor. I'm like, You don't know, did the mother leave an abusive relationship and the kid doesn't know he's pouring out? This agency wouldn't even have him if everybody, my big thing is me, you, everybody live on here. We, at any minute in time, could be homeless. Always. At any minute in time, we could have a horrible crisis. And if somebody is there to lift us up, to help us out, amazing. So I was lucky enough that I just by accident found an agency that people are typically only getting help for 1 year until they get back up on their feet. Amazing. So when I went, I could always get the money from people or the objects that I needed. But when it came time to wrap, my family would help me. It would be days of wrapping. Like, it was unbelievable. Or like delivering. My dad would always help me deliver. And you would go to people's trailers or apartments or houses where the door is falling off. My dad's like, I'm going to come back and fix the door. Like and a mother could be standing there with a tin of cookies shaking to give it to you, to thank you. Like, it changes you forever. It changes you forever. And it makes you want to do more good. I don't have much in life. I don't. I mean, I just get by with my life the way it is. I had a child sick for the first 9.5 years of his life. You know what I mean? Like, everybody's got their story. But you're grateful for what you have. If you have a loaf of bread, give half away, help somebody along. Like, that's just how we need to be.
Yes, I totally agree with that, because someone was saying in the comments how you never know the full situation of what someone next to you is going through. And offering what little you have could be all the difference in the world to them.
And you know what? Karma is a thing. It's not like I'm a giant walk around her of thinking, oh, it's gonna come back when you need it. I truly believe that. So nobody's better than anybody else. I don't care what your bank account says or what you drive. We're all putting the shoes on, taking the steps, breathing the air. So everybody calm down. Like, that's just my mentality in life. So if you can help someone, help someone. And the Alaska thing, that was just the craziest thing. That somebody I knew, she graduated college and went to this tiny town in Alaska to be a teacher. She broke up out of a bad relationship. She was all like 22 years old. She's in this town called Twin Hills, Alaska, which literally didn't even have 80 people in it. And you could only get in and out by seaplane. So, or a very dangerous boat. So there was no place to shop even in the town. So it was all indigenous people living there. There was this basically like a little house on the prairie school where no matter your age, you're all in the same school. And she was a special ed teacher. So anyway, one day, a little girl, like 8 years old, said, Santa doesn't come to Alaska. And I just happened to be having a conversation with her on Facebook, seeing how she was doing. And I'm like, what? Hold on a second. This cannot stand. So thank God, people, brands, everybody responded. And this is before like social media. This was probably maybe like 7 years ago, I'm guessing. This is before social media is what it is now. And I didn't do it for social media. I mean, would I have loved to have been flown out there to see what happens? They have one post office in this town that's open only a couple of hours a week. So the only jobs you can have in this town is the person at the post office, the people who clean the post office, if you're in that government building, or teachers. So they were making money by the amount of kids they have in their annual check, and, you know, alcohol's banned in the town, whatever. So planes started to arrive. Cargo containers arrived. I'm talking candy, pajamas, Levi jeans, Lee sweatshirts, CVS. And when these kids were asked what they wanted, it was things like toothbrushes, soap, shampoo. I'm like, oh, hell no. Everyone's getting movies and toys and candy and pajamas and clothes. And yeah, no way. So, and it just blew up. Like on Facebook, friends would tell friends at work, and it just got bigger and bigger. It was amazing.
Wow. And I can guarantee you that those kids' lives were changed forever that day, because the things that you listed off, those are the bare essentials that we think about and that we take for granted here. 100%. And they weren't even thinking about video games or anything like that.
Nope.
So impressive that you made that impact on them.
Yeah, it was really cool. And you know what? That's just not, you know, maybe that's why I'm here. Maybe it's that one thing. Like, you always wonder, like, why are you here? What's the thing you're supposed to do? So maybe it's just that one thing.
Oh, wow. And do you still keep in touch with anyone from there?
No, because Danny, she ended up living there now. She's just got married to a man she met in Alaska. She's never coming home. Every year she kind of went to another town, like a little bit bigger. She's still in a small town, but now this cute little blonde hair, blue-eyed girl, which was innocent as the day is long, takes down her own reindeer. Gets fish this big. I'm like, wow, I want to go visit. Yeah, really cool.
I heard that they have a lot of great job opportunities there, primarily because a lot of people don't want to go, and the pay is super high, especially for nurses and teachers.
Yeah, but it is. It's a life-changing experience. I know a couple people that have gone out there, and you're paid just to live there as well. So by each child you have, so almost like the stimulus that happened here, that's an ongoing, everyday, every annual thing for them. So some people live off of that check for the whole year, depending on what kind of a town they live in.
Oh, that's amazing.
And I'll tell you, one of the greatest things to ever happen to these little tiny towns and places like that is Amazon Prime, because stuff is so super expensive out there. But on Amazon Prime, you're just like everybody else.
Wow. That's something that I didn't think about, because you always think about how things get delivered out there. But Amazon Prime with the universal rates of charge, like, that's amazing.
Yep. That really was a game changer for them. And I wouldn't have known that if I hadn't been involved in this whole thing. I directed everybody to do that.
That's props to you. Everyone give Souffle a round of applause, because that's
it took a ton of people. It wasn't me. I just had the idea.
Yeah, but I mean, for you to even start that initiative is so selfless and so considerate, because these kids will probably internalize that and do a deed for that for someone else.
And that's what I hope, because sometimes I would have guilt over the different families that would be adopted. And if it was a lot of money raised, every penny of it had to be spent. What was I going to do with it? Because that's what it was raised for. So in my opinion, it's funny. TikTok has a phrase now called a love slap. It's almost like that was your love slap, because it's probably never going to happen again. But guess what? You and I never had it. So you had it once, enjoy it. And hopefully that changed you a little bit to pay it forward. Because you know what? And I know I'm a goofball, like anybody who knows me in life. I'm chatty, I talk fast, whatever. I say whatever comes to my mind. But when something good happens to me, I immediately turn around and do something good for somebody else. And it could be this big. It doesn't have to be big. It could be something simple as buying the person's coffee behind you, paying their toll, when we could do that, whatever. Just little tiny things. You change someone's day. So maybe everybody do one thing this week, just one thing for a stranger, one tiny act of kindness. And you know what? You think you did something good for somebody else, you're going to feel better. You're just going to feel so good about it.
Yes, I totally agree with you on that. And it pays forward when you give to the community, and to even just someone, like you said, behind you in line, holding the door, something nice. You'll be grinning from ear to ear all day. So
absolutely. Yep. 100%.
And I know that you said that catering is kind of out of the plan right now, but what changes do you see yourself making in the next 5 years with your blog and everything that you're doing?
I'm here on camera, but I'm not like a camera girl, but I wouldn't mind doing short videos, just showing people how easy things could be. Again, I'm not a chef. I'm just someone that can move quick and make things happen. I just love for anybody to make something and be like, oh my God, that was so good. And then you feel good because they liked it or whatever. You're like, okay, yeah. But I could just be like, oh, here's a quick way to do this. So maybe not focusing on here's how you make this and all the steps. Maybe I'll just do sound bites of, hey guys, did you ever know you could do this for this? Like, just, I have to figure it out, because it's all so much work. It's just so much work. You probably don't think it's a lot of work when you look at a picture of soup, but to come up with the idea, to make it a couple of times, to shop for the ingredients, to type it all up, to remember what you did, do it again. Like, it's a lot of work. So something like that. And I actually did just come up with a product, but it's for bloggers. So that's a secret. It's not out yet, but I think it's needed. We'll see if that does anything.
Okay. That sounds really great. And I like that idea because it's a good way to get the word out there about your recipes. And you actually have a question here that says, do you have a cookbook cater to dietary restrictions due to health issues?
I don't. I have 2 new cookbooks available on Amazon. One is Kid Chef Every Day, and that's been consistently the top seller. It came out the end of December of 2018. And the second one that just came out this year is, I think it's called 30-Minute Meals for Beginners, something like that. And are they my dream cookbooks? No. Do they have all the pictures I want them to have? No. It's just that they were through a publisher and they said, hey, could you do this? I'm like, okay. So I just looked at it like a part-time job. I'll write it, do it, there it goes. But there's still some great solid recipes in there. But for those that want a picture with every recipe, that's not it. But yeah, I'll just tell it like it is. Yeah. So, but they're good books. But
Perfect.
whoever wrote that, if you message me, I can and tell me what you're looking for. I have a lot of blogging friends, and I guarantee that someone has a blog for what it is you need.
Oh, that's great information, because I know a lot of people especially look for specialized diets that go with their health concerns. So that's a great question. And another thing I wanted to ask you is, how did you come up with the name Souffle Bombay? I love it. I love it.
And it's funny because I'd be a lot further along sooner if that wasn't the name. So I knew I wanted to start a blog, and my daughter, who's now 16, I guess she was 5 going on 6, and my son would have been 8. So I looked up on the domain availability, Colleen's Kitchen and the Kitchen with Colleen, like all these like cooking with Colleen, whatever. And I go down, I saw what was available, what wasn't available. So I had a family meeting to tell them what mommy was going to do, what wifey was going to do. So I'm like, so what are your ideas? Does anybody have a name I should have? And the little one goes, Souffle Bombay. And I'm like, what? 5 times. I'm like, what are you saying, Samantha? And I go, what? How do you even know what a souffle is? What's it? She's like, Mom, with her hand on her hip. A Souffle Bombay is a giant pumpkin that you take out all the inside and fill it with oatmeal. And I'm like, oh, what? I'm like, but I love the name, and I love that she came up with it. And 18 months later, I'm sitting on the couch watching Maggie and the Ferocious Beast cartoon with her, and Hamilton is a pig who's a chef, puts a ladder up against a pumpkin, climbs up, and made a Souffle Bombay. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's my blog. Wow. I had no idea. It took me 18 months to find out.
Props to her for coming up with that amazing.
So funny.
Honestly, because it's just so catchy. Everyone's saying that in the comments. Is a name that you'll never forget. It's a name that you've never heard. And it gets down to the point.
Out of the mind of a child, yeah. So just kind of funny. Yep.
Yes. Well, I know we have a few minutes left. Is there anything that you would like to share, word of inspiration to upcoming bloggers, creatives, or just something to inspire people during these times?
Well, I guess some of my friends have said that they're too depressed to cook, and they've been ordering out nonstop, which just can't be good for your wallet or your health. Don't be afraid to just go in the kitchen. I mean, simple ingredients can sometimes yield the best tasting things. You know what I mean? You just, you don't have to be crazy and plan it out all week. And just say, hey, I want to make this. You do your little bit of research on the web now that it's so easy. You don't even need to buy a cookbook. And just do it. Get your kids in the kitchen too. Get involved. And if anybody does want to start a blog, I'm an open book. You can always message me. Happy to hop on the phone, give you tips and pointers. And I'm sorry I'm not reading the questions because I just can't. I'm looking at you. I can't do.
Same way.
Yeah. But I'm always happy to help people.
I really think that that's great advice and a great invitation for people to reach out to you with any questions, because it's always nice to have someone who is where you want to be that can give you helpful advice. So I really appreciate you for offering that invitation to everyone on here.
Yeah, and I'm appreciative that Denise started Club Quarantine, which morphed into the offshoot of Family Room. I would sit in my room the early days with Denise and have my daughter's light, the little disco light, and FaceTime my friends, like, let's pretend we're gonna drink, girls, like, because I was bored out of my mind. But yeah,
didn't it feel like a real club, like especially during the beginning of pandemic? Oh my gosh.
I got my t-shirt, I wear it proudly, nobody knows what I'm talking about, and my friend groups as many times as I told them to do it, nobody listens to me. But yeah, it's just kind of funny.
Yeah, no, honestly, shout out to D-Nice, Kathy Sledge, everyone who's been doing these online meetups for us to get through the pandemic and feel like we're not losing our minds, because
I agree.
It's been great.
And now that things are opening up a little bit, it's hard to keep up, but guess what? Any minute now, we'll be back to having some more time.
And we'll be, I heard about that. I really hope it doesn't go in that direction, but
get your paper towels and toilet paper, people.
Stock up. Don't take all the toilet paper, but get enough. Get enough. Get food, because we had a fiasco with toilet paper earlier.
Well, you know what's funny? My son, I don't know if we run out. My son told me New Year's Eve, Mom, there is a plague in China. He's 17 at the time. And I'm like, what, Connor? But usually he knows what he's talking about. He digs and researches when he's interested in something. So we go, have our New Year's Eve. The next day I'm laying in bed. I go on Twitter. I just start digging. And what I saw on Twitter blew my mind. So So I ordered my masks on January 5th. And I told my family, stock up your medications, this, that. And I started telling friends in January. And by the first week in February, people wanted to have me committed. And I'm like, do you think there is an invisible bubble over our country? Like, do you think that? Like, and when it gets here, I was telling them in February, Americans are so arrogant, it's going to be worse than ever. Just because we were not going to listen, because we know better than everybody. You know what I mean? So I'm like, I'm just going to get ready. So I didn't stockpile anything. I just made sure. I was worried about food. Never thought of toilet paper. Never thought of moving stuff from my 401k to something safer. But I was just worried about my kids. They have asthma. My husband has asthma. Like, I was just worried about being safe. So if you get the hair prickling up on the back of your neck, take action and just get your households ready.
Oh, yeah. And that's a special note to everyone. Keep your immune system strong. Take your vitamin C, eat your veggies and fruits, drink water. You'd be surprised how many people do not drink water, because it's better to prevent than to cure, honestly.
So one of my brothers is the co-creator of the shingles vaccine, and two of my brothers work at Merck. So that brother knows more about vaccines than you can imagine. And he actually doesn't even vaccinate all of his 5 kids just with everything because of what he knows. Right. But he said in the beginning, after he got a look at it under the scope, late February, low doses of D3, vitamin D3, 25 milligrams, which we have been swearing by since then. I'm not a doctor, guys. It's just what is working for my family. And I have on hand something, and you might know about this. You can look it up with your background, called Q-Certin. Quercetin. It's derivative of plants. So you're never going to see that touted because the drug companies won't make money from that. But that's the next best thing. Yeah. And I honestly, I am not somebody who says only rely on herbal remedies, but herbal remedies I really do live by, in addition to medication, just because it gives your immune system that natural boost, keeps you healthy, keeps you preventing any little illness, and it just makes you overall more energetic. So definitely don't knock them off as soon as you hear it. Definitely don't. You figure God made this whole planet as a puzzle, right? So we're on a hunt to figure out what does what. So I'm with you 100% on the plant-based things.
Oh yes, for sure. And a lot of these medications are actually derivatives of those plants. So that's another conversation for another day. But so thank you so much for joining us tonight. And where can everyone find you, follow you? I posted it here, but just remind them one more time, please.
It's just Souffle Bombay, Souffle, Souffle, and then Bombay, like India, Bombay, everywhere. So whether it's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, or my website. So, and if you're looking for something and you don't feel like navigating the website, say, hey, Carl, do you have this? And I'll tell you if I have it, or I could direct you to a friend that does, probably.
Oh, perfect. So everyone, make sure to follow Souffle Bombay on her website, on Instagram, wherever you can find her. And can people still purchase the children's book?
The first one? No, I took that off of Amazon years ago when I went on to the other ones, just because it was so cumbersome mailing them out myself. But yeah, I mean, it's probably out there still places because QVC only keeps things for so many years. Right. But the other 2 are on Amazon. You just look up Colleen Kennedy on Amazon and they'll be there.
Okay, everyone, make sure you get that book for your kids. Have a great time in the kitchen with them. And thank you so much, Colleen, for joining us this evening.
Thanks for having me.
Schedule, but it's been such a pleasure talking to you.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for your support. I really appreciate it. Have a good night.
You too. Thank you, everyone in the comments. Take care. And this will be available live on my YouTube after, as well as the IGTV, in case you missed the beginning. All right. See you all later.
Thanks. Good night.
Good night.